Me to ask a series of hard-hitting football questions, and whether he wants to or not, Domonique has to answer them. Here we go. First, whose loss was worse on Sunday, the Lions or the Ravens?
It was the Ravens to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the Lions had a lead and they gave it up, but the Ravens, we've said it so many times today, the opportunity is what is really devastating for them. They were better. They were home. They had the MVP. They had the better defense, even though the Chiefs had a very good defense. They had everything going in their favor, and they were even in that game, even though they played pretty poorly for much of the game towards the end. So, yeah, that loss is going to hurt because next year they're not going to be as good, and it's not likely to ever have a team that is talented as that one was.
I'm with you on that one. Here's the next question. Mahomes, Kelsey, is that the best quarterback pass catcher tandem of all time?
I know I look young, but I'm not that young. I remember very much the Montana-Rice combination, and I think that has to be. Like, Montana was for a long time considered the greatest quarterback in football until we get this Brady run, and Jerry Rice still the best receiver ever to play in the NFL. So if you got two GOATs, yeah, I think that obviously Mahomes may be in that GOAT conversation, but Kelsey, as good as he is, I don't think anyone's calling him the GOAT.
I would throw that Steve Young had about half, if not more, of Jerry Rice's career. And Travis Kelsey, this is a conversation we can have over the next 2 weeks.
No,
maybe he is the best tight end of all time.
You stop it.
He might be.
Stop it. You stop. He's very good. I think he's helped a lot by having Patrick Mahomes be there, and I think that's true of all the players. Don't get me in here hating on Travis Kelsey.
Yeah,
we're hating on Travis Kelsey.
The Swifties gonna be after you, but
a lot of people upset with you. All right, one more.
I am scared of them.
If I said
Brock's not gonna believe me.
If I said Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the NFC right now, is that true or false?
It's true. He's the only one left.
Right.
Like, he's absolutely the best quarterback. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit with
Too literal. Too literal.
I don't think he's the best quarterback. And this is, again, you guys put me, this is why this segment is good, because you guys put me in this unfair position where it feels like I'm hating on a guy who was very clutch in a very important moment and going into, I still don't think he's the best quarterback in NFC. A guy named Matt Stafford, I would also still believe Dak Prescott, but I'm sure you guys are going to disagree with that. But you'll like the Matt Stafford one. You agree, Matt Stafford?
Let's not even dive into best or not.
Right.
I want to make a point that came up in our meeting this morning that I thought was fascinating. There was a perception of Brock Purdy. Look, a lot of things are perception based on the way people look, based on the way their history, the fact that he's the last pick in the draft and all the rest of that. Brock Purdy, so people look at him and they assume he's a game manager, the typical definition of a game manager. What is he actually?
He ain't. He's a risk taker.
Yes, he is.
That man is a game changer, and that has positive and negative connotations that come with it. He is going to change the game. You watch the course of that game, his best play, biggest completion, was an interception that bounced off the face mask of a player. At the beginning of the game, he threw one, and all quarterbacks throw interceptable balls. He threw some bad ones in the course of this game. But he also has the mindset of a game changer, and that doesn't affect him. He's going to keep playing. He's going to run when he has to. He's going to make very tough, impressive throws sometimes and risky throws sometimes. And he is, maybe he's not the #1 overall pick type of guy, but he changes games.
Absolutely. I mean, shout out to Cam Newton because we've been running with this game changer and game manager for a while now. But Brock Purdy, late in the games when you watch him in this game, you watch him in Green Bay, also against the Browns when they lost and they needed a drive at the end. A game changer is when you want the ball in their hands, and that's who Brock Purdy is. And I think we get bored because he doesn't look like the prototypical quarterback, the quarterbacks that go in the first round, but that's the reason he was Mr. Irrelevant. But when you look at his play, he is playing just as good, if not better, than most of those guys. But we can't get over it because of our own misconception.
He's short, white, and with not a strong arm.
Right.
And he's got to be a manager.
And he dressed like Kirk Cousins.
He definitely has Daniel Jones swag pregame, but when you look at what he's done, right, and you talk about, oh, is it the system? He's playing in the same system as Jordan Love. He's playing in the same system as Joe Burrow. Right. Go look at Joe Burrow's second-year stats.
Well, why don't we do exactly that?
Absolutely.
Here are Joe Burrow's second-year stats. That's the year he took Cincinnati to the Super Bowl. In the same offense, the numbers look eerily similar, but one of them is big, strong, went to LSU and smoked cigars, and the other one
he dressed nice too.
is Brock Purdy.
Look, I promise you, everybody in that Niners locker room was smoking cigars the other night. It was disgusting in there. But anyway, there's more Josh Allen than Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy's game. But because he's not 6'5" and he can't throw it through the wall of the stadium like Josh Allen can, we're not inclined to think that way. But he is one of these guys that we talked about earlier, right? Like, what is he good at? Winning. Like, he knows whatever it takes. Like, I'm going to scramble for 21 yards, even though I haven't done that all year. I'm going to do it twice in the NFC Championship game because that's what's called for. So I've been amazed. The perception of Brock Purdy inside the 49ers building is diametrically opposite to the perception of Brock Purdy outside the building. They love him, and they respect him a great deal for what he's accomplished already.
And let's give some credit, right? Like even last year when he's playing that little short window before he got hurt, he threw the most tight window passes and the highest completed percentage. He has done more. And even the ball that bounces off the face mask, we talked about, it was the right read. I mean, he's supposed to go there. So if you talk about process being what it should be, he finds the process of what it is. And by the way, let's also talk about this. Shanahan gets talked about like he is the greatest play caller in the history of the NFL. He was over in when he's losing in the fourth quarter and when he's losing in the second half, right? This quarterback, this game manager, has now broken that twice. Once against the Packers and once against. So to act like a guy is just riding a system, that's not the case. So he is elevating those around him the same way we talk about other players.
You can argue about the placement of that deep pass, but I think you brought up Cam's name, and I think the game changer, game manager thing is an interesting way to divide these quarterbacks. The problem is game manager comes with a negative connotation, and it shouldn't, because you made the point earlier that Patrick Mahomes has been managing the hell out of these games.
That's what he does great.
And you have to understand that being a game changer also comes with that negativity that comes with it. So, like, I think that because Purdy looks manager-ish, he looks like a middle manager, we say he is, and he falls into that, he falls into that system that has previously had success with managers, then we keep calling him a manager when he's not.
No, he's heady and sneaky athletic.
If you're going to give credit when you're going and making all these risky decisions and they don't work out, then you're going to take the blame as well. I think he's okay with that, taking the blame and taking the reward. So, but yes, I mean, the wasting a timeout late is a massive decision. The fourth downs, whether you like them or not getting points, I think it all contributed to the loss.
Yeah.
What happened to you? You were a coach. Now you're just ripping coaches.
It's not a rip. I love Dan Campbell. I actually talked to him. But the facts are the facts, right? Like, you can't give up a timeout at that point in the game.
So that one was inexcusable. I feel like there were three separate conversations to have about Dan Campbell. One of them, I think, is easy. Third down from the 1 yard line with a minute and 5 left and 3 timeouts. No one disagrees. That's an inexcusably bad decision, right? To run. This is a play that has to end with the clock stopped.
Correct.
One way or the other, right? There's no excuse. In fact, I don't even understand it.
No.
Like, who calls this?
It's execution, man.
And he's
not
admitted that.
It is their best play. For real, it is one of their best plays, most productive plays. So.
No, it's not. In that situation, it's a
I agree
terrible
with the
play,
decision,
Jeff.
No,
but I'm just telling you
Campbell came out and said this was a mistake. He said it was called because he thought they'd walk in the way they were running the ball all game. But yes, it cost them a timeout, which they needed. If they'd had the third timeout at the end, they might have had to make the Niners punt one more time.
It's inexcusable, quite frankly. And I can't see that anyone wouldn't see it that way. The second piece of this was the going for it on the 2 fourth downs rather than kicking the field goals. Those are debatable. I mean, those are, one person says it's the right, one person says it's wrong. Analytics, for what the record shows, says it was about a 50-50 decision. I understand it's in keeping with what he did. So, Nick, you think he got those right?
When it's 50-50, I err on, as the point I made earlier, I err on the side of doing football. Not playing where we have to bring the kicker on the field who only plays 5 snaps a game. We're a football team. We're good at football. When you give us a chance to play football, I want to do it. So, like, if you give me the opportunity and consistent with what they've been doing all year, that's the thing about probability is you change the probability when you lessen the times when you go up there and try it. So if they're a fourth down aggressive team, once you start picking and choosing those opportunities, then you have the chance of it voting in your favor or not in your favor.
So the field goal in the second quarter you would agree with that Dan Campbell kicks towards the end of the second quarter as opposed to the
at the very end, you mean?
At the very end.
Right before halftime.
Oh, yeah, because that's right before halftime. You have clock issues to think about. I would have liked them to be aggressive there too, but that's a different situation.
Right.
Like, I tend to think that I want them to be more aggressive, but there it's different. When you go for it in other situations, you have to take into account that you're backing them up. You can stop them, you can get the ball back, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the two that everyone has been talking about. The one that I feel like is not getting nearly enough attention is their actual philosophy in the second half of this game. That's the part that drives me insane as one who just was rooting for them. And the numbers are the numbers. In the first half, the Lions, who are as good a running team as there is in the National Football League, with 2 outstanding running backs, ran for 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball 21 times for 148 yards in the first half and had a 17-point lead. And for reasons known only to them, they ran the ball 7 times and threw it 21 in the second half. Dan, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. You're averaging 7 yards a carry. You come out in the second half, you should keep doing it. Now, the 49ers adjust, obviously. But what else happened, right? The 49ers got the ball first. They kick a field goal. The Lions get the ball. They go down the field. They go for it on 4th down. They don't get it. Then the Niners score the touchdown with the ball off the guy's face. Then on the next play, a run play, they fumble, and the 49ers score again. Now, all of a sudden, before you've had a chance to even implement your second half game plan, you are now in a tie game. So I think they got punched and had trouble recovering from that punch because of how quickly that lead disappeared.
Again, in a tie. This is no different than Baltimore. You do your best, right?
Yeah.
Your best is to run the football.
I get it.
So if it's a tie, it's still a tie. So let's go run the football. And by the way, on these 4th downs that you're going for, neither were a run. Both were passes.
Yes.
One was an empty backfield. So if you're going to do what you think you're so good at, I would venture to say your run game has been better than your pass game throughout the season. So if you're going to lose, go down fighting the way that you know how to fight.
Right.
They did not do that either.
You're going to run it on 3rd and goal and need to spend a timeout.
Right. It does not make sense. So
That's one of the 7 running plays.
Like if you love Dan or you hate Dan, it is still his responsibility at that end.
The wrong call.
Yes.
I love him, to be clear.
Agreed, me too.
What he has done there is beyond magnificent because he has created a culture in a place where it looked like that would never happen. But you got to be fair. They keep what?
That's the point right there. Is you have to, in order to create and sustain a culture, you have to make the difficult decisions in those situations.
Yes.
I think back to the Steelers. When the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, got hurt, they would have a high draft pick. They traded that draft pick to get Mika Fitzpatrick and not save to have a quarterback.
Right.
I thought it was a dumb decision, but it is a decision that reinforces the culture that we aren't a team that tanks. We aren't a team that gives up. We're a team that goes all in, tries to win championship every year. So when you are faced with a tough situation, a 4th down decision, you know what? This is when your culture is tested. You make the decision that is consistent with the culture that you want.
Right.
If you don't make that decision, that then puts a fracture in the culture that you're trying to sustain. When you have an opportunity to reinforce that culture, you take that opportunity. But I don't get what's so hard about
Dominique, that's not the culture.
No.
You're talking about the 4th down. I'm talking about not running the ball. Part of their culture is we're going to run the ball down your freaking throat and make you like it, and they stop doing it.
I can't disagree with you on that, but he fumbled, and Dan laid it out. They're in a tie game, and the 49ers adjusted defensively.
But you got to make them stop it. I do think there's an element that where coaches outsmart themselves, and they had so much success with the run game. They're like, oh, they're going to take this away. Here's where we pass it. And that wasn't the case. You didn't force them to stop your run game. And to your point about culture, all that is on point, Dom, but at the same time, your culture, to Greeny's point, is running the football. Right. Keep pushing it down their throat and don't take unnecessary risk and be aggressive in a moment that does not call for it.
And in a game that they were in the situations they were, I don't think it would lessen his culture had they kicked a field goal.
Fine.
And I get the analytics part of it. This is not an analytics conversation.
Yeah, it's not at
But
all.
at the end of the day, the decisions he made that were major and impactful. If you're going to do it, then do it the way that you've done it all season, or don't do it.
I do think it's important to inject into this discussion that the field goals were not 25-yarders, right? You're talking about a 45 and a 48 by a kicker who, kicking outdoors from 40-plus for his career is in like the low 60% range.
Okay.
These are not guaranteed. So it's not take the points.